Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs high-level meeting to review the ongoing efforts to contain coronavirus, discusses ways to further strengthen India's preparedness. PM to address the nation at 8 p.m. on Thursday evening to talk about issues relating to COVID-19 and the efforts to combat it. Health Minister reviews preparedness for containment and management of coronavirus, appreciates actions being taken in close coordination at central and state level, lauds efforts for active surveillance and effective contact tracing, 151 confirmed cases including 25 foreigners, 3 deaths and 14 recoveries till date, all exams postponed till 31st March. After PM Modi's telephonic conversation with Saudi Crown Prince, Saudi Arabia proposes virtual G20 leaders summit next week on the lines of SAARC summit, coordinated response to COVID-19 pandemic and its human and economic implications to be the key focus. In a big boost to Make in India initiative, Defence Acquisition Council paves way for procurement of 83 indigenous Tejas fighter aircraft for Indian Air Force. Proposal to now be placed before Cabinet Committee on Security. And Madhya Pradesh political crisis intensifies. Shivraj Singh Chauhan demands Kamal Nath government's resignation on moral ground, while Supreme Court refuses to send Registrar General to meet rebel MLAs. Court defers hearing till Thursday morning. Namaskar, I'm Abhishek Mahajan. We are in with latest on DD News and DD India. Let's start with our top story tonight. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation on the coronavirus outbreak in the country on Thursday at 8 p.m. During his address, the Prime Minister will talk about issues relating to COVID-19 and the efforts to combat it. Earlier on Wednesday, PM chaired a high-level meeting to review the ongoing efforts to contain coronavirus and ways to further strengthen India's preparedness. The Prime Minister emphasized on actively engaging with individuals, local communities and organizations in chalking out mechanisms to fight the COVID-19 menace. He also urged officials and technical experts to deliberate on the steps to be taken next. He expressed gratitude to all those at the forefront of combating COVID-19, including various state governments, medical fraternity, paramedical staff, armed and paramilitary forces, those associated with the aviation sector, municipal staff and others. Government continues to monitor and review the level of preparedness of hospitals and quarantine facilities besides bolstering the state of healthcare facilities. Safdarjung Hospital in the capital has announced that all patients at the emergency ward except trauma patients will get screened for coronavirus before being admitted. It has also advised all ministries and departments to install thermal scanners at entry of government buildings as feasible. Meanwhile, 151 positive cases of coronavirus have been reported across the country, including 25 foreign nationals and 3 deaths. 14 cases of recovery have been registered till date. Both union and state governments continue monitoring and tackling the spread of COVID-19 on a war footing. Dr. Harshvardhan, Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, chaired a high-level review meeting about the preparedness of hospital management. Dr. Harshvardhan also reviewed the quarantine facilities for evacuees. This will be done every day with the aim of improving them. The Indian Army reported its first case of the coronavirus after a 34-year-old soldier from the Ladakh Scout Regiment tested positive for the infection in Leh. The soldier, a resident of Chot village in Leh, came in contact with his father, who had returned from a pilgrimage in Iran by an Air India flight on February 20th and tested positive for COVID-19. The soldier was on leave and tested positive after rejoining duty. His sister, wife and 2 children are also quarantined at S&M Heart Foundation. Meanwhile, all non-emergency leaves of paramilitary personnel have been cancelled in order to minimize the risk of contracting coronavirus during travel. Central Armed Police Forces have been advised to get into battle mode to combat the pandemic by ensuring personal and public safety, according to a 4-page directive issued by the medical wing of the Union Home Ministry. With Parliament and the Karnataka and Jharkhand assemblies in session, the Health Department sanitized and fumigated the halls in both states before legislators gathered for the day. Chairperson of Rajya Sabha led by example by getting himself screened before entering the premises. Meanwhile, BJP has announced that it will not to hold any protest or demonstration across India for a month in view of the coronavirus outbreak.
पार्टी ने ये निर्णय लिया है कि अगले एक महीने तक भारतीय जनता पार्टी किसी भी तरीके का जन आंदोलन नहीं करेगी, न ही किसी प्रदर्शन में भाग लेगी। कोई अगर विषयों के बारे में चर्चा करनी होगी तो 4-5 हमारे वरिष्ठ कार्यकर्ता संबंधित अधिकारी को ज्ञापन देंगे, लेकिन आंदोलन से अपने आप को दूर रखेंगे, धरना प्रदर्शन से अपने आप को दूर रखेंगे। ऐसा आज निर्णय लेकर के सभी प्रदेश की इकाइयों को सूचित कर दिया गया है।
Talking of states, in Maharashtra, the state with the maximum number of positive cases, there are reports of some people travelling to avoid self-quarantine. 4 passengers on a Garib Rath were deboarded at Palghar station, where the TTEs and co-passengers raised an alarm seeing a self-quarantine stamp on their hands. They had flown down from Germany and were headed to Surat. They were taken to the government hospital, Palghar. The 4 passengers were handed over to the district medical authorities. Ahmedabad Municipal Administration is also taking strict action against those violating directives to contain COVID-19.
2-3 केस ऐसे देखने को मिले जहां नगरजनों ने अपने घर से बाहर कदम रखा हो। ऐसे 5 केसेस में, कल 2 और आज 3, टोटल 5 केसेस में अब तक पुलिस की मदद से इन सभी लोगों को गवर्नमेंट की जो हमारी क्वारंटाइन फैसिलिटी जो 16 सिविल हॉस्पिटल में है वहां उनको शिफ्ट किया गया है।
In Uttar Pradesh, a 25-year-old junior resident doctor of the King George Medical University in Lucknow has tested positive for coronavirus after coming in contact with 2 patients undergoing treatment for the disease at its premises. The institute has announced suspension of all undergraduate academic classes and examinations till April 2nd as a preventive measure. The doctor has been kept in an isolation ward and is undergoing treatment. The J&K Union Territory Government has ordered suspension of interstate bus services. The Uttarakhand Secretariat will be closed for a week beginning Friday with an advice to employees to work from home. Karnataka CM B.S. Yediyurappa announced that State Cabinet has earmarked Rs 200 crore to combat spread of coronavirus in state. The first death due to COVID-19 in India was reported from Karnataka. In Punjab, CM Amrinder Singh held a meeting with senior officials to take stock of the situation. Rajasthan government has made triple-layer mask compulsory for all medical staff. The Rajasthan High Court has deferred elections for the 6 newly formed municipal corporations in the state for 6 weeks on grounds of coronavirus outbreak. Educational institutions are also taking preventive measures. IIT Bombay has announced a virtual shutdown of its campus at Powai till March 31st. The institute has asked students to vacate hostels by March 20th evening. All laboratories and the central library will also remain shut. CBSE has directed board examination centers to ensure sitting arrangement with adequate distance between students to contain the coronavirus spread. UP board has announced that all UP government school students of classes 1 to 8 will get promoted without exams since schools have been closed till the end of the month. The Vaishno Devi Yatra or pilgrimage has been suspended indefinitely from the 18th of March. Tirumala temple is allowing darshan only on a slot token basis. As a result, there is no waiting in queue anymore. Visits to Delhi's Akshardham temple have reduced considerably and the temple administration is taking abundant precautions. The Mahabodhi temple in Gaya has also seen a drastic decline in the number of visitors. Golden Temple in Amritsar has begun thermal screening at entry points of the temple complex. Mosques in Bangalore have issued directions to cut short Friday prayers to 20 minutes to avoid large gatherings. On another front, Union Minister Kiren Rijiju tweeted, "Some incidents of racial remarks against Northeast people have emerged in some parts of India in the wake of coronavirus due to cultural ignorance, prejudice, mindset and lack of understanding. Matter discussed with any division MHA. Strict advisory is being issued to the states." With Bureau Inputs, DD India.
And let us tell you again that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation on the coronavirus outbreak in the country on Thursday at 8 p.m. During his address, the Prime Minister will talk about issues relating to COVID-19 and the efforts to combat it. And earlier on Wednesday, PM chaired a high-level meeting to review the ongoing efforts to contain the spread of coronavirus and ways to further strengthen India's preparedness. The Prime Minister emphasized on actively engaging with individuals, local communities and organizations in chalking out mechanisms to fight the COVID-19 menace. He also urged officials and technical experts to deliberate on the steps to be taken next. He expressed gratitude to all those at the forefront of combating COVID-19, including the various state governments, medical fraternity, paramedical staff, armed and paramilitary forces, those associated with the aviation sector, municipal staff and others. Moving on, PM Modi assures citizens every possible help in view of COVID-19. He has asserted that the government will do everything possible to help the citizens in the view of outbreak of COVID-19. Replying to many tweets posted from cross-section of people, PM lauded all those working to make it possible and said no words will ever do justice to their exceptional efforts.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi retweeted several tweets from citizens on tackling COVID-19. He congratulated Odisha Chief Minister, saying, "Setting a great example, Chief Minister. I hope others also emulate Naveen Babu. We all can do our bit in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Naveen Patnaik tweeted he has registered his sister's details in the government portal for persons coming from abroad. Prime Minister also lauded at the rate FinSec law for encouraging employees to maintain productivity while working remotely. He wished the firm the best. Responding to Saber H. Chaudhary's tweeting, lauding the SARC video conference initiative, PM Modi said working together can lead to good results. He thanked PM Hasina for sharing her insights with fellow SARC leaders. Prime Minister also retweeted Pranjal Sharma's tweet, reiterating Prime Minister Modi's call to researchers, innovators and tech lovers to share emerging technology solutions to fight COVID-19. Prime Minister also lauded a resident doctor from Sadarjung for his PSA, asking people to stay home. PM said, and I quote, "A shout out to all those working to make our planet safer and healthier. No words will ever do justice to their exceptional efforts."
And the HRD Ministry on Wednesday directed the CBSE and all educational institutions in the country to postpone exams till 31st March in view of the coronavirus outbreak. HRD Secretary Amit Khare said that while maintenance of academic calendar and exam schedule is important, equally important is safety and security of students who are appearing in various examinations, as also of their teachers and parents.
Decided that all examinations, CBSE, NIOS and university exams, they are rescheduled and postponed till 31st of this month. Similarly, the evaluation work is also postponed till 31st of this month, because there are certain competitive exams like JEE Mains where students have to travel to different centers, many a times outside their cities. Therefore, the JEE Main exam will be held a little later. It was to be held from the first week of April. That new date for JEE exam will be announced on 31st March after assessing the situation.
Right, and the Central Board of Secondary Education on Wednesday postponed ongoing class 10th, 12 examinations till March 31st in view of the coronavirus outbreak. The CBSE announcement came following a directive from the HRD Ministry saying exams are important, but safety and security of students and teachers is equally important. And also moving on, a 23-year-old passenger living in Sydney arrived at Delhi airport on Wednesday. On reaching airport, in his self-reporting form, he mentioned headache as chief complaint. He was referred to Safdarjung Hospital. The patient was taken to 7th floor for admission and evaluation. When doctors reached the room, he wasn't found in that room. And at the same time, another doctor coming out of building at ground floor observed a body lying on floor at the ground. The passenger was found dead on the floor. And the number of people infected worldwide crossed the 2 lakh mark and deaths topped 8,000, with the number of people now recovered at more than 82,000, according to a tally kept by Johns Hopkins University as a report on COVID-19 outbreak across the world.
COVID-19 is wreaking havoc across the world with at least 2 lakh people infected and over 7,900 casualties. Although only one new case has been reported from Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus, but the number of cases from across the world are escalating. The European Union sealed off its borders to try to put the brakes on the ferocious spread of the coronavirus pandemic, as the number of deaths on the continent soared past the toll in Asia. In Europe, more than 3,400 have been recorded. Italy has reported 2,503 deaths, with 31,506 people infected with the virus, out of which 2,941 have recovered. The government revealed over 325 deaths in a single day. Italian government has also imposed lockdown in order to limit the spread of the deadly virus. Whereas Iran has reported 147 deaths in a day, taking the death toll to 1,135. In South Korea, 93 new cases of COVID-19 have been diagnosed, mounting the total cases to 8,413. Spain has also reported 558 deaths, with 13,700 infected.
We are facing an unprecedented challenge. An unknown pandemic that has spread unusually quickly across the globe. A threat to global public health that understands no borders, no colors, no languages. An extraordinary challenge that requires us to take exceptional action.
In Spain, more than 20 inmates clambered onto the roof of a migrant detention center in Madrid while protesting against the poor conditions inside the detention center. While in Britain, COVID-19 has claimed at least 71 lives, with 2,000 cases of the virus. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that his government would bring forward new measures to support workers and protect private renters from being evicted from their homes because of coronavirus. Queen Elizabeth II of Britain has called off all her engagements over COVID-19. 3,162 France's army transferred 6 patients in critical condition due to coronavirus to a military facility on Wednesday, as it sought to ease the strain on hospitals in the east of the country that are struggling to cope with the spiraling number of cases. The decision to move patients in intensive care to the southeastern city of Toulon, where several military medical hospitals are located, comes as doctors in the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in the eastern French cities of Mulhouse and Colmar warn that the system is at breaking point. French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe has also expressed concerns over the increasing impact of deadly virus in Britain. He has warned Britain to strengthen the application of its quarantine measures or risk having its nationals barred from being in France.
It goes without saying that if other countries, especially neighboring countries, for example the United Kingdom, stay too long in a logic in which they do not apply these measures, then it will be difficult for us to accept British nationals within our territory.
Meanwhile, Health Minister of France has expressed hope that the impact of virus will dwindle within 8 to 12 days in the country. The death toll from the novel coronavirus in the USA has climbed to 103. US President Donald Trump tweeted that the government would ensure payment to people locked down in their homes due to coronavirus. He also said that Medicare and Social Security of Americans will be taken care of. Following EU crisis, Germany's Chancellor announced immediate plans to close the borders to all non-EU, EFTA or UK residents.
The first thing is that we all agreed with the suggestion of the Commission regarding an entry ban into the Europe, with very few exceptions from countries that neither belong to EU or EFTA or the UK. It still needs to be put into place by the member states and will be for 30 days. Germany will put into place immediately. It will be the remit of the Interior and Foreign Ministries.
Countries across the world are taking precautionary measures to contain the spread of the virus. Lockdown has been imposed in Germany. Level 4 travel ban has been imposed in Australia. Malaysia has also went into a 2-week partial shutdown after coronavirus infection cases in the country spiked to 673. Ecuador has also imposed restrictions over domestic travel from 9 p.m. at night to 5 a.m. in the morning. The country has reported 111 cases of the virus. Meanwhile, Indian ambassador to USA said that he has been in contact with the shipping company and American officials regarding Indian crew members of Grand Princess cruise ship. Nepal has also banned large gatherings and closed down public places such as movie theaters, cultural centers, gymnasiums, nightclubs, swimming pools, stadiums and museums until the end of April in response to the fast-spreading coronavirus pandemic. Pakistan government is in deliberation with World Bank to take loan of over $20 crore. The country reeling under the financial crisis has sought for the aid from World Bank to enhance facilities in its 270 hospitals to tackle the impact of virus. The number of cases in Pakistan so far has reached 250. Asia Development Bank has announced the package of $6.5 billion for its member developing countries, whereas Saudi Arabia has called for a virtual meeting next week to discuss the coronavirus epidemic. This comes after PM Modi's video conference with SAARC leaders. Meanwhile, WHO has lauded the efforts of India of raising awareness among people with the help of the caller tune. DD India.
Meanwhile, the first meeting of the Defence Acquisition Council under the chairmanship of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was held with the acquisition wing being the secretariat of the DAC. The light combat aircraft Tejas, indigenously designed by Aircraft Development Agency under the Defence Research and Development Organisation and manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, is going to be the backbone of the Indian Air Force in future. While orders of 40 Tejas aircraft had been placed with HAL in initial configurations, DAC paved the way for procurement of 83 of the more advanced Mk1A version of the aircraft from HAL by finalizing the contractual and other issues. The proposal will now be placed for consideration of Cabinet Committee on Security. This procurement will be a major boost to Make in India, as the aircraft is indigenously designed, developed and manufactured with participation of several local vendors apart from HAL. The Defence Acquisition Council also accorded approval for acquisition of indigenous defence equipment for about Rs 1,300 crore. The proposals were for procurement of aerial fuses and twin dome simulators for Hawk Mk32 aircraft for the Indian Air Force. The DAC approved an amendment to the Defence Procurement Procedure 2016 to enable review by a costing committee of bids submitted by joint ventures of defence public sector undertakings. Ordnance Factory Board DRDO, from whom procurement of defence items is undertaken on a nomination basis. This will bring about more transparency in cost and compress the timelines for negotiation of the contract. And now shifting focus to political crisis in Madhya Pradesh, where Chief Minister Kamal Nath continues to be precariously placed. New twist to MP political crisis. The Supreme Court has refused to send Registrar General to meet rebel MLAs while deferring hearing for Thursday morning. Earlier, 6 Madhya Pradesh rebel ministers and 16 MLAs who resigned from the Congress along with senior leader and former Guna MP Jyotiraditya Scindia on 10 March have been harboring various grievances for quite some time against the Kamal Nath government, which eventually led to their resignation. Former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan on Wednesday launched a scathing attack on the Congress party, stating that Kamal Nath-led government in the state should resign on moral grounds as they don't have the majority.
नैतिकता का तो तकाजा है कि इस्तीफा दे रही है सरकार। अब जब इतनी नैतिकता नहीं है तो कम से कम फ्लोर टेस्ट तो करा दो भाई। फ्लोर टेस्ट में तकलीफ क्या है? लेकिन ये हुड़दंग करेंगे, पुतला जलाएंगे। अब विधानसभा में फ्लोर टेस्ट होना है? क्या लोकतंत्र में जो कार्रवाई विधानसभा में होनी है उसको सड़कों पे किया जाएगा? माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय में सुनवाई हो रही है कि फैसला सड़कों पे करोगे? सच है कि ये हुड़दंग करने से कुछ नहीं होगा, बस फ्लोर टेस्ट कराओ, यही हमारा कहना है।
And the second leg of the budget session of Parliament is underway and precautions are being taken in view of COVID-19 in Parliament as well. Thermal screening was initiated at the entry point of Parliament House for MPs as well. We have a report.
Progress in legislative work could be seen in Parliament on Wednesday. In Lok Sabha, during question hour, many important subjects were taken up and demand for grants for J&K and Ladakh were then passed after discussion. Replying in Lok Sabha, Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh said that for the first time in the history of independent India, NDA government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave a package of 80,000 crore rupees for the development of Jammu and Kashmir.
मोदी जी ने बार-बार ये कहा है कि जम्मू कश्मीर को हमने विकसित क्षेत्रों के स्तर पर ला करके खड़ा करना। And we have seen this happening in Northeast. The transformation that has taken place in Northeast in the last 5 years is revolutionary. It is to be seen, to be believed. हमारे आलोचक भी इसकी तारीफ करते हैं। और वही बदलाव अगर पूर्वोत्तर में संभव है मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में, तो कोई कारण नहीं कि ये बदलाव जम्मू कश्मीर में संभव ना हो, क्योंकि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है।
अगस्त 2019 फरवरी 2020 से समय तक आतंकवाद हिंसा तकरीबन अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 60% कमी हुई है। दूसरा, आज सुरक्षा बलों का जो शहीद होते थे हमारा सुरक्षा बल, वो भी आतंकवाद के कारण हो, पाकिस्तान के जो क्रॉस बॉर्डर फायरिंग का हो, इसके कारण से शहीद होते थे, ये भी 76%, 76% आज हमारा शहीद का होता था, उसमें भी हमें कमी हो गया।
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the Modi government is focused on overall development of J&K. She added the development of J&K and Ladakh has been the priority of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
The various developmental activities which are happening in great speed for the welfare of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, for the welfare of the Dalits of Kashmir, for the welfare of the STs of Kashmir, for the welfare of the women of Kashmir who have been denied their rights only because of the so-called special status of 370. And now, when it is being abrogated, you see that everyone gets their right. You see that every member receives their due.
In Rajya Sabha during 0 hour, many issues of public interest were taken up. Congress members created ruckus on the issue of Digvijay Singh being in custody. Proceedings of the House had to be halted till 2 in the afternoon after pandemonium prevailed. In Rajya Sabha, National Commission for Indian System of Medicine Bill 2019 and the National Commission for Homeopathy Bill 2019 were passed after discussion.
आज आयुर्वेदा भारत में ही नहीं बल्कि कई राष्ट्रों से हमें डिमांड आ रही है कि हमारे पास आप इस हमारी जो रिसर्च और कोऑपरेशन में आप हमें एमओयू करिए, हम आपके साथ काम करने के लिए तैयार हैं। और मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि कम से कम 14 अन्य राष्ट्रों में हमारे एमओयू बन गए आयुर्वेदा के, होम्योपैथी के, योगा के, और कम से कम 10 यूनिवर्सिटी में वो हमें शेयर प्रदान किया है कि हमारे प्रोफेसर वहाँ जाके पढ़ा रहे हैं। और कम से कम 58 इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर 28 राज्यों में 58 इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर भी बनाए गए हैं।
Lot of legislative work is being carried out in both houses of parliament, and the government's focus is to take forward the legislative agenda in the interest of the nation. With inputs from Anuj Yadav, Sudhakar Das, Rajesh Raj and Shailendra Mishra, DD India.
Now let's have a look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs high-level meeting to review the ongoing efforts to contain coronavirus, discusses ways to further strengthen India's preparedness. PM to address the nation at 8 p.m. on Thursday evening to talk about issues relating to COVID-19 and the efforts to combat it. Health Minister reviews preparedness for containment and management of coronavirus, appreciates actions being taken in close coordination at central and state level, lauds efforts for active surveillance and effective contact tracing. 151 confirmed cases including 25 foreigners, 3 deaths and 14 recoveries till date. All exams postponed till 31st March. After PM Modi's telephonic conversation with Saudi Crown Prince, Saudi Arabia proposes virtual G20 leaders summit next week on the lines of SAARC summit, coordinated response to COVID-19 pandemic and its human and economic implications to be the key focus. In a big boost to Make in India initiative, Defence Acquisition Council paves way for procurement of 83 indigenous Tejas fighter aircraft for Indian Air Force. Proposal to now be placed before Cabinet Committee on Security. And Madhya Pradesh political crisis intensifies. Shivraj Singh Chauhan demands Kamal Nath government's resignation on moral ground, while Supreme Court refuses to send Registrar General to meet rebel MLAs. Court defers hearing till Thursday morning. Well, that's all we have on this news bulletin. Stay tuned for more news and updates. Namaskar.